Decisions, decisions, decisions. We all have so many important decisions to make. Well, today I want to share with you a tool to help you decide which project or which idea you should pursue next. As you can see here, I've created a little Excel spreadsheet, which I call the decision making matrix. Now, this particular matrix is based on one developed by Chris Guillebeau in his book, The $100 Startup. And I have found this to be a very useful tool as I decide which project or which idea I should tackle next. It doesn't matter if you're making decisions for your organization, for your team, or even personal decisions. This tool can come in very, very handy. So, how does the decision-making matrix work? Well, you can see on the left-hand side, I've got a selection of hypothetical ideas. These are things that I'm considering pursuing, but I'm not sure exactly which one I should tackle first. Where should I put most of my effort right now? The decision-making matrix helps us add quantitative data so that we can get a score, that we can get a point total, which can help us decide which task or which project we should tackle next. At the bottom of my spreadsheet here, you can see I have some definitions of the 4 different criteria that we're going to run these ideas through. So impact is defined as how much of an impact will this project make on my business and customers. And all we need to do is plug in some numbers between the values of 1 and 5. You'll see on the right-hand side, 1 would mean little impact on my business or customers. 5 would make a huge impact. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can go about this. You can give each one a subjective number. You can say this is a 4, and well, that's about a 4, and this is a 3. But what I like to do with the matrix is I like to use a stack ranking approach. I like to see how many ideas I have here on the left-hand side. And in this case, because I have 5, I'm going to make sure that each value, 1 through 5, is represented here on the impact column. You see, if I was to go about it and say, well, that's a 4, that's also a 4, that's a 3, I might end up with scores that are very even. So I want to compare them against one another. And it's great, especially if you have somewhere between 3 and 6 different ideas to go through. It can be great to use that type of stack ranking approach. Of course, you could go beyond 1 to 5. You can go 1 to 6 or 1 to 8, depending on how many different ideas you are evaluating here on the left-hand side. So let's start with impact, and I'm just going to sort of randomly throw in some numbers here. This is just a hypothetical example. Let's move on to effort, the second criteria. Effort is defined as how much time and work will it take to create the project. Now, it should be noted that the numbering system here is a little different than the other 3 criteria. 1 would mean a ton of work, a whole lot of work, where 5 would mean almost no work. Why is that? Well, again, we want to pursue the project that is giving us the highest score at the end of this exercise. And those things that take much less effort yet gives us a high score. That's why we want to use 1 for a ton of work and 5 for almost no work. If we can put in very little effort, yet have a great outcome, great profitability, it can be in line with our vision and have a big impact, well, that should be the one that we pursue over a similar project that takes an extraordinary amount of work. So I'm going to plug in a few more numbers here. Again, this is a hypothetical example. We're just going to sort of give some random numbers here for this particular example. Now, before I add some values for profitability, I'm going to add one more thing, one more hint that can make this tool really useful. Of course, we can see the values here summing up in real time. I'm going to hide that. Why am I going to hide this column? Well, I want to try and be as unbiased as I can as I go through this exercise. So I may be biased towards the customer conference. And so if I see that, oh, the customer conference is only 1 point behind the leader here, maybe I will intentionally give it a higher score here in profitability or vision than it really deserves. So in Excel, of course, with just a right click of the column header, you can easily hide that column. Now that total score is going to be a surprise at the end of this exercise. I know we're not working with a whole lot of numbers here. I could add up these numbers in my head quite easily, but I'm going to resist that temptation. We're going to hide the total score, and then we'll reveal it once we've plugged in all of our numbers. So profitability definition, fairly straightforward relative to the other ideas. How much money will this project bring in? Let's plug in a few more numbers here. Again, just sort of random numbers at this point. Brings us to vision, something that we often forget when we're evaluating our projects or ideas for our businesses. We tend to give a lot more weight to profitability, which is important, but will this project be in line with our vision or our company's mission statement? So vision, the definition, how close of a fit is this project with our overall mission and vision? A score of 1 would be not close, a score of 5 would be very close. So let's plug in a few more numbers here. I'm going to give that a 5. I'm going to give this that's a 2, that's a 3. That leaves us with that for a 1. So now we've given everything a quantitative value. We've run it through 4 different sets of important criteria. Let's go back up here and let's unhide the total column. And now we've got some total scores. And look at that. We've got a tie for 15 with sales training and hire more staff. Now, this doesn't mean that I should pursue these tasks simultaneously. It doesn't mean that I should dive into both of them at the same time, but it gives me some great food for thought that these two are probably much more important, much more impactful to my business than the other ones on this list. And I should seriously consider pursuing both or at least one of them immediately. It also is helpful to look at those things that didn't score as well. In this case, we had both customer conference and build a new product with a score of 9. You might want to go back and review that. So in this case, if we look at effort, we could say, wow, this was going to take very little effort. Remember, a score of 5 would be almost no work. Again, building new products takes an awful lot of work. I was just plugging in numbers randomly for today's example. But this got very little effort, but such a low score. Why was that? Well, the impact was minimal, next to nothing. Profitability, middle of the road, and it looks like it probably didn't align with our vision very well. So some of the reasons why that particular one didn't score so well. I'll provide a link in the description below to this Excel spreadsheet so you can download it yourself. You can try it out and plug in some of your own data, some of your own ideas. Check out the decision-making matrix to help you make more productive decisions.